Good morning. This is Heather Maxfield, Executive Director with TAG Education Collaborative. I just want to welcome you to our first talent acquisition open house with Cox Automotive. This is the first time for pulling everyone together from our membership to learn about a new company and how to get hired from that individual. So thank you for taking the time and being part of our inaugural session. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to Harris Putnam, Cassady Buck, Karen Jacks, and Divya Grover. We also have Lexi Griggs online today. She's with TAG Education Collaborative. And if you need anything throughout the day or past this webinar, please reach out to us at heather@tagonline.org or lexi@tagonline.org. All right, Harris, I'm going to pass it over to you to get started. Thank you for doing this.
Right on. Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you everyone for joining here. So basically what I'll do, Cassady and I are going to give you some insights into us as a whole. I'll kind of focus on kind of the core of Cox Enterprises and what we support, and then she'll kind of give you some more details around everything else. And then we'll open it up for some Q&A and kind of see how we can help, or what questions we can answer. So I'll share my screen here and we'll get started. Let me know, is everything coming through?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So I'll go ahead and get started kind of around Cox as a whole. So Cox Enterprises, and kind of how we can define it is Cox Enterprise is kind of the mothership. And underneath that, we have a few different brands or umbrellas. One of them is Cox Automotive. The other one's Cox Communications. So Cassady and I support more of the Cox Automotive on the technology side. But I'll just kind of say that if there's other things as we go through this, if there's opportunities or positions you find with any of the core companies here, we'll be happy to get you connected to the right individuals. But from an insight perspective, we're going to have mostly Cox Automotive insights. So basically, we're a family-owned business, very focused on supporting the communities we live in, disrupting industries, and leaving the planet a better place. So basically, building that future. From an automotive perspective, sometimes there's not a lot of recognition when it comes to Cox Automotive as a whole, but a few of our brands underneath that have some more consumer facing, recognition. Two of our biggest brands are Kelley Blue Book and Auto Trader. We have over 25 different brands. A lot of them are more kind of on the dealership side. We have Manheim Auction Houses, which is a huge portion of our business as well. But disrupting the way the automotive industry is done, just late last year, we launched a new digital product, which basically is an end-to-end experience from an e-commerce perspective, to where you can purchase a vehicle from dealerships around the U.S. So you can sit there, wake up on a Tuesday, pull your tablet out, and purchase a vehicle. So pretty cool process there. But that's kind of the overview. A lot of our products are consumer facing. Others are more dealership focused, but the big thing is the innovation piece within the automotive industry. So there's a lot of room for growth, and it's actually a really exciting time to be in the automotive industry as things change. There was a big push, or kind of the future looking to the digital perspective of it. Obviously being in a pandemic helped us accelerate that. And so that's one of the, more powerful things about Cox Automotive as well. And Cox as a whole is looking at that and trying to serve our communities better, whether it's in a pandemic or there's things that happen that we don't foresee, but being able to, adapt to those things and better serve our communities. So with that, I'll kind of I'll send it over to Cassady.
So I'm going to just kind of share briefly what we believe as a company. At Cox, giving back is a really, vital part of our culture. It's integrated in several different ways. We kind of use this, this line right here of doing the right thing for our employees and our customers and our communities as a way to guide us. We do this through Team Cox. So, even during the pandemic, there's been opportunities for us to give back, whether it be with our time or our talents, or even through financial giving. We do this by going green, ensuring diversity is in our workplace, and offering sponsorships, corporate giving, as well as the James M. Cox Foundation. I just wanted to take time because I personally really like that Cox is so active in giving back because that aligns with some of my values too, which ultimately makes my job easy when, when it comes to sharing what I love about the company with job seekers. So just kind of wanted to highlight that a little bit. We value giving back and volunteering so much that we actually encourage our employees to take time off, and they're given volunteer hours. So you did hear me right. That is hours given to you to use to, to take the day off to give back. There's several events that you can actually sign up with through Cox in order to volunteer. So, Cox does a really good job of putting those events and advertising those events or ways to give back, to kind of take looking for those opportunities out of your hands. And then volunteering actually plays a part in contributing to our employees' overall goals. That's how much we value giving back. So just kind of wanted to highlight that. And then to piggyback on what Harris shared a moment ago, because we're family owned, I just wanted to take time to share with you all that you really kind of see this overflow into the way that Cox cares for their employees, that family lens. Because of this, you see it through the benefits that we offer, such as, unlimited PTO, so that employees can have more of that work-life balance, to be with family or to be present for those that they love. In addition, they support certain perks, through families that need adoption assistance, fertility benefits, and we even offer pet insurance. So, I just kind of love this family-owned piece that Cox does offer, and recognizes that family looks different for everyone, and they want to, be able to really support that through the kind of benefits that they offer their employees. Here's, you can go to the next slide. So one of the questions you all are probably having is, how to get plugged in, how to connect or to apply. So I'm going to run through this really quickly, but you'll want to visit us at our site at jobs.cox.com. At the top, there is a field where you can kind of type in keywords, job title, locations, those kind of things, and then search. Obviously, when you see a role that, that sparks some interest for you and aligns with your skill set, that's when you would want to take time to create your candidate profile and be able to apply and submit your resume. If you don't see anything I do want to highlight, if you don't see anything at that time, don't be discouraged. You can also on this page, scroll down all the way to the bottom. There's a sign up to join our community kind of link in a blue box, where you can kind of indicate your skill sets, the kind of jobs that you're looking for, that sort of thing. And then that gives us the ability to reach out to you when jobs come available that maybe align more with your skill sets. We'll also be dropping a link into the chat where we would love to capture your information so we can stay connected. And so that's a really great way to continue this conversation and continue to be connected with the opportunities that we have. So at this time, that's kind of all we have to share from an overview, and hopefully maybe that sparked some interest and some questions that you may have. So we're going to just kind of open up the floor to you all to answer any questions that you may have about the company or positions or what we do. We are ready to be of any help to you all.
If you all want to go ahead and drop your questions in the chat, I can read them out so that it's easier for everyone to answer and get all the information needed.
Great. I'll give some people time to type things in. Harris, why don't you, while people are kind of thinking or typing up questions, why don't you kind of share, I kind of shared a little bit about a few of my favorite things about Cox. Maybe why don't you share something that you connect with the company, or one of the things that you really appreciate about our company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but one of the things that are very important to me is, Cox, a lot of companies talk about taking care of their employees and doing what's right. At Cox, they really live it. I can tell you from my perspective is thinking about the individual as a whole, and they want you to be your best at work, right? They want you to be engaged and enjoy the work that you're doing, but to be fully your best person at work, you have, I guess, things that are important to you outside of work, and they enable you and they give you time to make sure that you're able to give time to those, because they want you to be your best person and at work, which is great, which is very important to me. The flexibility there. And then the other thing is really stands out is it's okay to make mistakes. Like, we're pushing it, we're trying to be better, and we learn from those mistakes. So it's not like shouldn't be afraid to kind of push the envelope at all, which is something that we try new things, which is great. I know in one of the slides I talked about disruption, which is something that's kind of important to me, and not just sitting with the status quo and trying to better things. So those two things, taking care of their employees, giving them time outside of work to be engaged in the things that are important to them, as well as, being able to work on challenging projects is important to me as a whole.
And it looks like we have a question from Nathan. Are there any large initiatives this year at Cox that will create a need for a specific skill set? That is a very large question because we have several different initiatives. One of the larger ones that I'm seeing is really within our product team. So I have seen quite a few product roles come about at different levels, whether it be, a lead or a senior or that sort of thing. I really think that team's growing. They're doing some kind of innovative projects from some of my conversations with hiring leaders. Obviously that varies depending on the group and what those projects look like. But I would have to say, as far as, something that I've recognized within the business is definitely the need for those product people and different levels as well. Harris, would you have anything to kind of add or anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke to it earlier, but the digital, I guess, kind of e-commerce platform we rolled out, Car Shop, last year, is what we've seen there. A lot of is in the product discipline. So a lot of times you have product leaders or product managers that are kind of working on different work streams. So you could have checkout, you could have search, there's all these different portions of it. So as our products evolve and enhance, you get more specialized in there. So you could get somebody that's like, hey, we need somebody who's really good at product discovery, coming in there, finding out potential problems before they're potential problems for our consumers. The other one is, how do we simplify the checkout process, or, whatever that is, or how is the search piece? So there are all these, I guess, kind of, I don't want to call them niche, but different areas that become more of a focus as, products are rolled out and as they are enhanced. So, I went straight to product as well, Cassady. So that was absolutely where I was going as well.
Okay, good.
Our next question is, are there any current opportunities in project management? We'll be looking over the career page after this event. I recently got my PMP certification a few months ago and would love to use my knowledge with a wonderful organization. So the question is, are there any current opportunities in project management?
Mm-hmm. To respond to that, I would say yes. It might not be the title product management, but I've had several roles that definitely need that component, and there is specific roles of project management that I do think that you can find on our career site, where you would be using that skill set, whether that be a different titled a little differently. I am currently not working on any at this time. Harris, do you have any project management positions that you're aware of?
No, so most of what we'll have is kind of more on the technical side. So I'm sure we do have something similar to that, if not specifically for project managers out there. It's just we might not have insight into it. Like I said earlier, is we'll share, the best way to get in contact with us towards the end here. So as you come across, that's one of the biggest things is, we're a large organization. We have such a small piece of it. So if there are things out there that pique your interest, to contact us, and then we can work to get you connected to the right individuals
Yeah.
that can kind of share the more insight around it.
And I would add to that, it's great that you have your PMP certification. That's something that really sets you apart from, from other individuals that may be applying as well. So, I'm sure you're highlighting that on your resume, but I would definitely make sure that that's something that you share if there's roles that are of interest to you on our career site. And, like Harris said, please, reach out to us. We can kind of point you in the right direction.
And I'll just add in that I did a quick look, and we do have project management roles, not specifically in the technology organization, but across the organization for Cox Auto, and then all the other subsidiaries as well.
Great. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Ray, asking, I saw some positions of interest in your mobility initiatives with autonomous/connected vehicles. Since this is an emerging space, are you looking for talent from within or outside the industry? Also, what information can you share about your solution status? The website did not include much detail on the products/services that Cox is introducing.
Let me scroll back up there just so I can make sure.
I know, I'm rereading it as well. I think if I'm understanding correctly, some of what you're asking, Ray, is a little bit more of the detailed of maybe a specific role. If I'm understanding your question correctly, is that it sounds like you're wanting a little bit more detail around the products or services, which could vary depending on the role or the group and what what they support. So, I'd be happy, after I can gladly put my email into this chat for anyone that wants to reach out afterwards. And if there's like a specific job that you're referring to, I'm happy to get more details around that for you. But I also don't want to misunderstand your question. So if that's helpful, let me know, or if I've misunderstood, please clarify, because I want to make sure we address it.
Yeah, so I'll touch on a couple parts here. So a lot of times we don't have kind of the shareable information around some new products or releases that are going on. We're more kind of behind the scenes there. But to your question is, how do we look for talent? Is it within the company or on the outside? I could tell you, diversity I thought is very important for us. So you can't never say that we're looking for different thoughts and different experiences within this. So it's hard to say we'd be looking for, something specific. If you're talking about autonomous, yes, there could be skill sets, but we are, maybe it's a technology working within, AI or data science or whatever it may be. So yes, there could be a specific skill set, but we're always looking to, add new thoughts and new experiences to our teams. I hope that helps.
Our next question is from Nathan. As you are identifying talent for specific roles, are you finding that Cox has competitive salaries to what you're seeing in this heavily slanted candidate market?
Yeah, I think we do. We definitely recognize that the market is a little different than what we've seen before. And so we are constantly having conversations of what that looks like when it comes to new employees that we're trying to bring in, and how we can make that competitive for folks, and reevaluating where the market stands for current positions. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of an ongoing conversation, especially with the temperature of the way that the market is right now, that our team as well as our HR teams are continuously looking at.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with Cassady there. I think the other piece is, when you look at compensation, We try to look at the whole thing. Are you going to be excited about about your responsibilities, the team, the impact that you're going to be able to have, our benefits? Our goal, from a recruitment standpoint, is when we're speaking to somebody, to make sure as we go through the process that we're going to fill whatever void that may be for that person. What are they missing? Is it growth? Is it specific skill sets? Where do they want to be? So yes, compensation is always part of it, and I think we're competitive there. But I can tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and you'll get sometimes if everything else is not there, the culture, the job, paycheck will only get you out of bed so many times. So we try to look at the big picture of everything. Are we fulfilling those needs that you might be missing, or what you're looking for that's going to get you excited about your work to go with that compensation piece?
Yeah. And then I know Nathan, you asked also around, specific roles. I'll just kind of let you all know, kind of on my plate, I'm seeing a lot of product roles, software engineering, a lot of JavaScript needs, UX designer kind of positions. These seem to be kind of hot jobs when it comes to what I'm seeing, or even skill sets needed for positions within the organization right now.
That's all the questions that we have in the chat at the moment. So just as you guys are kind of thinking of them as they're coming to you, you can go ahead and throw them in there more, and I'll read them out.
Cassie and I both have shared our email addresses in there as well. So feel free to use those as you come across things or questions come up, post event.
So it looks like Ray has a background in product management and program management. Wants to know, hang on, I just lost it, disappeared. I'm so sorry. Oh, here it is. In program management in telematics, SaaS, but not automotive vehicles. I think it could be an exciting space for my next opportunity. So I wanted to get a view of whether it's this is a background that would be viewed as highly transferable. It sounds like Ray, that a concern of yours is maybe the automotive industry background, and that's not necessarily a need. I do know that there are some hiring leaders that do like for people to kind of have touched the automotive industry a little bit, but I've never seen that be, at least on my side of things, one of the requirements. I definitely think that with what you're sharing, you have a lot of transferable skills that, and again, in the product space right now, it's really booming. There's lots of opportunities there. So, I would definitely say to, check our career site, because a lot of what you're sharing can be transferable and doesn't necessarily need the automotive, component or experience.
Our next question is, what are the prospects for growth and advancement?
That's a good one. I think that they're really good. Us as an organization, we are growing. And the other piece of it too is so if you're looking at Cox Enterprises as a whole, the umbrella has everything in there, and we have kind of a unique philosophy on it. Is like, hey, we'd rather lose somebody. So if you're in your current job and it's not necessarily, I guess, exciting for you anymore, our philosophy, we'd rather you move internally to another spot and try to find that job versus going externally to look at. So we have different things in place to kind of help with that internal mobility as well. So yes, it's very important to us. I mentioned it earlier, is that we want you to be excited about your work, and maybe you get to the point to where you know what you're doing, but you're looking for that next thing. So having internal conversations with people to learn about other parts of the business and what they do, and then seeking those other opportunities is something that is important as well. We don't have a lot of times you'll see companies that have like a time in position that says, hey, you have to be in this position for 18 months before you can move. It's a little bit different here because you can't always help timing when that perfect opportunity comes up. So it's one of those things where we try to embrace that, and the philosophy is we'd rather you shift internally than look outside the company as a whole.
I agree and would not have anything else to add.
Shawnee asked, do you ever hire short-term contract talent? If so, what's the process for locating these opportunities?
Yeah, we definitely have contract opportunities available, short-term and long-term. We work with a few different vendors that, that can kind of, that help us target those contract opportunities. Harris, do you have a specific, or Karen, do you all have a specific where to go in order to see these opportunities? Oh, Karen, you're on mute.
It wouldn't be a meeting if someone didn't say that. So there isn't a specific website for our contract opportunities. We actually have a vendor management system, and they engage different vendors for those contract roles. But if you want to reach out to me directly, I'll put my email address in the chat. We can at least get you connected to some of the folks that that may have an interest in your background.
Okay, our next question is, what's the time frame to expect between applying, talent acquisition interview, hiring management interview, and offer?
I would say ideally as quickly as possible. But obviously that's not the case all the time. So and a few things here. It kind of depends on hiring leaders, what the interview process looks like. I've kind of been seeing a trend right now of, two rounds of interviews. Most hiring leaders are doing a round one with themselves and then moving people to a panel interview. And so some of this, depending on, panelists or hiring leaders sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze, could be contributing to, the length of time. Obviously, the way that we're kind of going about a lot of our roles right now is more along the lines of, once we do see the talent that we want to move forward with in an offer, obviously getting them onboarded as quickly as possible, that aligns with, the business side of things, but also, when the candidate can start. So I wouldn't have an exact time frame to share with you, unfortunately. But and with a challenging market right now, sometimes that that pushes things out a little bit more. But if we have the right candidate, I've kind of seen us want to move forward quickly, and but we're also willing to work with the candidates on start dates and that sort of thing that align with with their current position or what they have going on. Did that answer your question? Or Harris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just super quick. Yeah, it's one thing I kind of always think about is we try to focus on the communication piece and kind of setting those expectations. So at least we're having an open line as we kind of go through it, and not just like sometimes you might have long breaks of communication with other companies, certainly not here from the TA standpoint, but we like to keep that open. So we don't have a specific timeline where it should move through the process. It's all very much dependent on kind of calendars and all that other stuff there, and that's the process. But we do our best to make it as quickly as possible, but keep an open line of communication. So we're just setting those expectations around timing throughout the process.
Harris, to add it to that, we are also following a new, hiring policy, especially for the software developers. We have just started where the feedback is quick. We are, trying for that kind of first, hiring outset too for the process where the candidate will have a quick feedback and we will have an offer sometime, 7 to 10 days if everything goes well with the candidate, so that we are doing it, the hiring process for the software developers. We are encouraging more, candidates with the, DevOps and with SREs and all. We are planning to do in the future for those roles as well.
That's all the questions we have in the chat for the moment. So maybe if we want to talk about some frequently asked questions while we give people time to formulate their questions.
Yeah. So a common one is, what is the culture of Cox like from your perspective? I think that for me, this kind of overflows. I've been with the organization on the business side and the recruiting side of things, and supported different divisions within Cox during my time here. And I think the overall culture that that I definitely feel is that family piece that we kind of highlighted earlier. The way that they take care of their employees, how that overflows with our benefits, how we're active in our communities and giving back, and really just, wanting to do the right thing, whatever that looks like. That could be, internally or even externally. So that's, kind of been the stance of, how to approach the pandemic too, of how do we do, how do we do our part within the community and do the right thing? I think that's kind of a common question. And that culture can kind of feel different, I guess, depending on your values and what you align with. Harris, would you speak any differently around, the culture of Cox?
Yeah, culture is very important. I think that for me is very important as well, because you spend a lot of time, working with these individuals. So you want to make sure that, kind of goals are aligned, and, everybody's, motivated and doing, good, is it right for the company? So that's very important to me. Career growth is big as well. Like I said, it's fostered. I've had an opportunity to kind of branch into areas that, traditionally, I don't think I would have had an opportunity with another company. So for example, I partnered a lot with our engineering operations team to kind of focus on their hiring initiatives and kind of growing that more partnership from TA. And I think from a culture perspective, a lot of times you have different segments of a business that help support each other. And a lot of times it could be looked at as more means to an end. When I need this, I'll go to them. But here as a whole, it's more of, we're all part of the same organization, working to the same thing. So there's a certain level of partnership that I think is very unique here. And within our hiring practices as well, yes, is skill set important? Absolutely. But, culture is very important too. Is making sure they're going to bring something to the team and be able to work and partner, across the different organizations, be able to collaborate. I think it's a big piece of who we are, and I guess what makes us so special as well.
Yeah, I would agree, Harris, that growth component. I've seen that as well. I personally started out within TA, and was able to kind of grow my skill set by shadowing and being able to kind of get plugged in different ways, and that was acknowledged, and I was able to be promoted within that organization in department, and then quickly I had the opportunity to move into a position to support one of our other divisions. At the time, it was Cox Media Group. And so, I definitely think that's kind of a beautiful thing that we have here, is that, if, there is a different side of the business that you're wanting to support, or you're kind of eager to learn a different side of the business, we have, cross-divisional mentoring. We have opportunities for you to be at Cox Automotive, but then, there could be future opportunities on the CCI or CEI side of things that spark some interest to you, and you're able to learn a different part of our business. I've obviously, full circle, I'm back at TA. And so I would just say, there's definitely a lot of different ways to kind of grow, whether it be, within your role and being recognized and promoted, or even looking cross-divisionally. We have programs that support that, cross-divisional mentoring, several leadership programs, we have something that's kind of been newly released within the pandemic year, called Cox Gigs, where you can kind of do some shadowing to a different side of the business to grow on your skill set, and you apply to those, you interview for those, that sort of thing. So it's a really cool way to kind of build on your skill set, learn a different type of part of the business, and continue to kind of beef up, your skills and the direction that you want to go in your career.
Our next question is, for those individuals that are selected to move forward in the interview and/or hiring process, is there anything that you see as a trend that allows those individuals to stick out over other candidates?
So I would say, I mean, that's a good question. And I think, having, being prepared for it, I think goes a long way. Doing any research on the company, and now nobody expects you to be, an expert in any of our brands or anything like that. But, as you go through the process, understanding, what area you could be focused more on, or, whether that's brand, and kind of learning more about that. And another thing I could say is just is asking good questions, right? Because this goes both ways. Essentially you're interviewing us as well. So we want to make sure that it's a fit on your end. So being engaging, asking those questions around, what's important to you, and seeing if you're going to have that in that position. I think that goes a long way as well. So it's important to, do your homework, and then make sure you're asking those questions that are important to you, and make sure that you're getting those answered.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Harris. I think I would also highlight, lots of folks, this might be something that you're already active in doing, but I would say catering your resume to the specific job description that you're applying to. So, if it asks for, if the qualifications asks for certain skill sets, certain technologies used, that sort of thing, really cater your resume around that job description. It'll definitely set you apart from the beginning, to where you can move forward, because you're highlighting how your experiences align to the role. So I know sometimes folks don't necessarily make those tweaks before applying, but I think it goes a long way.
I agree. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions that we have?
None in the chat right now, but they seem to be rolling in. So
Okay. We kind of touched on this, earlier, but what are some of the skill sets that are important to highlight on your resume for certain roles? It tends to kind of be a question that bubbles up a little bit. I would just highlight, to really share, soft skills, certifications, any kind of projects that you've done, even if it's kind of more of a side hustle thing. It could, apply to the positions that you're interested in. I'm trying to think if there's, and then even soft skills can be a great, thing to highlight. I don't know how, I'm a big advocate for this, but I don't know how many of you all are familiar with strength finders, but it's a great tool, in my opinion, where you can go in and kind of take this assessment and you come up with your 5 top skills. I think a resume is a great place to kind of highlight those, because it definitely kind of highlights more of your, what gives you fulfillment within your within a career, and maybe those unspoken skill sets that are also important within certain positions.
I'm a big, so from a resume standpoint, you could talk to 100 professionals and you're going to get 100 different takes on resumes. One thing that I always like is, towards the top, you get your name, your summary, all that stuff, is maybe putting a couple career highlights, stuff that's within the body of it, of things you're particularly proud of, that, it could be, quantifiable or just, projects, whatever it is, depending on where you're at in your career. But I like the practice of having a couple things that just come right to the top and said, here's some of the highlights. And then obviously, to Cassady's point again, is, catering that to that job description. So if there's something in there, moving those up there, just so it's at the top, don't really have to search for it. They open it up, it's right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've also seen this within, technical roles as a great place to, career highlights, but then also kind of similarly at the top, those top technical skills that, apply to the position that you're targeting. That's a great place to kind of briefly list out those skill sets, list out those technologies that you feel comfortable with. I've even seen folks, put the 1 to 5 stars to kind of rate themselves on how comfortable they are with it or their exposure, which is very helpful at times, because sometimes hiring leaders are like, I just want them, to have dabbed in it, like at least just a little experience and familiar with, this technical component. And so, that's a creative way to highlight your skill sets or experiences or those technologies that you've used as well.
We do have a question asking how long you both have been with Cox.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Cassady.
No, go for it.
It'll be in June, it'll be 6 years for me.
5 years for me, but I, as I shared before, I was with the CMG division. So not by choice, I shifted positions and I've boomeranged back. So happy to be back, and don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, but roughly 5 years, even with the gap.
I'm going to jump down one question just because it has to do with what we were just talking about. I've seen managers reject resumes of over 3 pages. Would you say right-sizing a resume at no more than 3 pages is a best practice, or does it matter to you / Cox managers?
For me, I don't want to have a 12-page resume. I can tell you that much. So I think taking a look at it, what Cassie had said before is catering it to that role. If it's relevant, it should absolutely be in there, but I've never been a stickler. I've heard people be like, oh, my resume is going to be over a page. I'm like, you've been working for 10 years. It should be over a page, because you can't, you don't want to put too much in there. For me personally, as a recruiter, when I'm reviewing resumes, I realize not everybody is a professional resume writer, right? I'm not. I just review them all the time. So, looking at that as a whole, just saying, hey, is everything in there? And then what I try to do is when I'm working with my hiring leaders is base it upon the conversation that I've had, and focusing more on the summary and the questions that we've asked that are very relative to that role. So I always advise, like, hey, here's the resume. So here's kind of the background, but here's the summary of everything that we spoke about that is super relevant for this role. So I don't think there's a right answer for that. I think 3 pages is fine. If it's 4, that doesn't, I'm not going to get a resume and be like, this is 4, I'm not going to read it type of thing.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I would rather see the right kind of skill sets on there. But to your point, like, I don't want a book to be to be reading either. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having 3 pages. I think that's a reasonable size. I also get the question at times, like, do you need to attach a cover letter? I also think that this is another preference when it comes to recruiters. Some hiring leaders love to see that cover letter. As a recruiter, it is nice to read, but I'm more interested in kind of the nitty gritty of what's on your resume. For me personally, Harris may take another stance, but just wanted to address that too, because sometimes folks, ask, is a cover letter something I need to do? Is that something your hiring leaders request? Is it helpful to kind of be able to get more visibility, that sort of thing?
I agree. It's never going to hurt, right? So it's never
Yeah.
going to hurt. But the one thing I would say is, especially with cover letters, you need to make sure that they are saved and uploaded for the right position that you're applying to. So you could come across 4 roles here, and you shouldn't have one cover letter for each. If you're going to do it, like put the time into it to cater it to what you bring for that particular role. I've gotten them before where they're cover letters for other companies. So always be kind of mindful of that, but they're never going to hurt you.
To add it to that, Harris, I would say, we should you just highlight your tech stack. That will be easier, for us and for the hiring leaders to look at your technology you have worked on, rather than more on the description side. Definitely with all the projects you have done with the description, if you add up your tech stack to that, that will really help us, that what kind of a technologies you have worked on, and then, we can try to, put the resume to the, correct hiring leaders for your job search,
Yeah, definitely. Good call out.
Verlinda asked, as a new hire, what's typically expected from them in the first 90 days?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, and I'm probably going to derail a little bit, but so apologies on that. I do think that varies on the kind of projects within the hiring, within the hiring group. Obviously, you want to become familiar with the company, the technologies used, programs. Lots of hiring leaders do some shadowing within the first few days, so that you're familiar with, key players, the processes, that sort of thing. From a company stance, this did kind of trigger that I wanted to share this information with you, but within the first 90 days from like a benefit standpoint, you are eligible for medical and dental and all of that day one of hire. And 90 days out, you can start contributing to 401k. So I know that has nothing to do with the expectations that you asked for, but just a really great thing to highlight, because lots of companies, there is that gap between those benefits that that you can kind of take place in as well. Obviously 90 days out, I think that's kind of standard within a lot of different companies, but you need to be more familiar with the processes that are in place, who you report to, how to reach out to the certain folks. Again, it kind of varies depending on the roles that you're interested in. And Verlinda, if you have a role specifically that you're kind of curious about, maybe we can speak more to that. Or Harris, do you have anything to add there? But I think obviously 30 days would be kind of the ramp up period. 60 days, you're kind of more in the swing of things, doing your kind of day-to-day tasks, and 90 days, you're kind of creating more of that impact within your role.
Yeah, I think it's not a one size fits all, right? Like each group is different. The nuances, it could be, where are they at, where, within the life cycle of what you were brought on to help with. Also could depend on your skill sets and what your experience level is getting in. I think one of the biggest things, one of the focuses as you start to integrate into doing the impactful work is the focus on making sure you're in a position to succeed, right? So giving you the tools necessary to make sure that you can succeed, and also communicate if there's things that are missing or what you need to be successful in your role. Like I said, there's nothing that Corda says that it could depend on the group, where they're at in the process, and what level the role's at as well. So to piggyback on what Cassady shared.
That's all the questions that we have in the chat for the moment.
Okay.
Well, as we wind down, I'll share one more thing. For me, if I rewind a couple years ago, when I come back and there was all the uncertainty in the world, and nobody really knew what was next, whether it be just within the world or with the organization or any of that. I remember I sat down specifically and I said to myself, I'm really happy I work for Cox. And that was like the one comforting thing that I found in that, is to say, I know that, this is hard times. Nobody knows what the future holds, but I work for a company that truly cares about their people and, it truly does everything they can to take care of them. So for me, I share this all the time when I'm speaking with individuals, is that was, in a time of much uncertainty, I felt that I was in the right place because they truly live their values of taking care of, their people.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I would have to say, I think it all kind of starts with leadership. Cox has phenomenal leadership that sets, definitely sets that tone, definitely is personable. And we even had, Alex join our team, the president of our company, and join our team meeting the other day, just very down to earth. Our leadership is very transparent with what they can be around directions that we're taking, or growth opportunities, or changes made within the organization, which I think, again, kind of gives that family feel, and really allows, for that, that mutual love, I guess, between employee and business that Harris was kind of describing a moment ago.
Yeah, you feel like a partner in a large organization versus just a number that does a piece of the work. I guess that's the best way to
Absolutely
describe it.
Curtis is asking, what's your opinion for those who attended boot camps as well as have done personal projects related to the career field?
I think that's great.
Yeah.
A lot of times you don't know what you want to do. You get a degree or you get your experience, and you find out something else, and it's great. So it's going to give you a different perspective as well too. I think one thing, when you look at technology as a whole, a lot of teams will love, I guess the best way I can put it is to get paid for your hobby, right? Get paid for your passion, because you can't really fake that, right? It's not just a paycheck. You really enjoy what you do. And, when you go that route, you're seeking something that I think kind of attests to that. Personal projects, any of that stuff, I think is fantastic because as you're trying to transition, whether it's, if you're earlier on in your career or transitioning careers, having that piece there before you can get, I guess, kind of the corporate experience is going to be very, very, very important. I can share a quick story. We held a hiring event pre-COVID at a movie theater. And so we invited a bunch of aspiring engineers and experienced engineers to come in, kind of mingle with some of the leadership. And so upon this is we had a few bootcamp grads. A few of them, I think a couple of them got hired from the event, but ultimately, I'm still in touch with one of them, and he's been promoted 3 times since he's been here. So to say, yes, are we good with that? Yeah, absolutely. It's about the experiences you bring, what you bring as an individual, your willingness to learn, your willingness to be a part of a team. So yes, that's great.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, make sure you highlight that on your resume, like, what boot camp, the duration of time, what was accomplished, that sort of thing. You can kind of set a tone for certain components like that under, special projects, or, kind of categorize that in a project section of your resume.
Patrice asked, is it worth it to generate a formal 90-day plan when you start a new job or lead? Your leaders initiate something like that.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to generate a formal 90-day plan when you start a new job, or would your leaders initiate something like that?
I think that is a very important thing to bring. So as you're interviewing, you could kind of think about what your 90-day thought process could be, because I think that's going to show engagement here. But generally, it will come from that team. But I think that's one of those things. We talk about interviewing and kind of what could set you apart. Is having that thought to think about what a 90 what you could bring within those 90 days, or what your plan would be. I think is going to go a long way.
Yeah, I've seen candidates, and I've used that myself within roles is to create kind of a one pager that you actually bring to an interview that shows your goals within 30, 60, and 90 days that you can kind of present to hiring leaders and show what you have to offer within that time frame. Obviously with what you've researched and what you're aware of within the role. And then that would open up conversations as well of, what would you add here that would be essential and, to these goals that I have, presented. So yeah, I definitely think that sets you apart if you're able to come into an interview process, with a one pager or even just kind of a mental note of, what you would be able to accomplish within those timeframes. And sometimes people have created kind of a one pager that they'll send to their recruiter beforehand, and then they'll, kind of attach or send to the hiring leader beforehand, before the interview, so that is kind of a conversation that will happen within the interview. Any other questions?
I don't have any in the chat, but if you guys want to kind of give your biggest advice for just applying in this industry, being with Cox, all of these things, as we're hitting time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one of the things I wanted to highlight is I would like to stay in touch with all of you all. So, please refer back to the email that I put in the chat, or, connect on LinkedIn. I'm happy to kind of keep the conversation going, or be, of help to you, within your job search. And, I think that, one of the tips that I guess that I would give is, to continue to grow, continue to network, and, leverage myself and Harris, because that will, even if you don't see anything on the career site, something may pop up a month from now. And I speak for myself, but, I don't mind even if you reach out a month from now saying, hey, I'm interested in this position. We met at this event. I want to keep those conversations going. I want to stay connected. So I would say really leverage these relationships and connections that we've made today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, use us as a resource, right? If you see things, if it's not in our world, we can connect you to it. One of the biggest advice I give to anybody that's kind of looking for a job is to not get discouraged if you apply and don't hear back. It's not always because your skill set isn't right. It could be a timing thing, and it's really hard to know that. But the biggest thing is to just not get discouraged. Keep after it. It will work itself out. But at this point, definitely reach out to Cassie and I for us specifically, and we'll be happy to get you connected with the right people and answer any questions that we can answer. So,
yeah. Another tip I would say is, make sure your resume is kind of a live document, that you're continuously updating it with those project skills or, highlights. Make sure you're continuously doing that with your LinkedIn, as, recruiters will look at that as well to see how your skill sets align. So I would say treat that more as a live document rather than something that you just revisit when you are ready to move forward with a different opportunity.
We do have one more question from Curtis, and then we'll wrap up. Asking, you mentioned earlier about the contract or staffing companies with Cox. Is there a possibility to transfer fully as then?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually had quite a few contract conversions this this past month. So that's a great, great example of folks that have started out with the company as contractors and then have converted at the beginning of the year. So absolutely, there is 100%, that opportunity for growth from a contractor to a full-time employee. Obviously, there has to be, headcount aligned and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't say that, that's an uncommon thing to see within our organization. We, convert contractors quite often.
Yes, and sometimes it's defined as like, hey, this is a short-term contract, or this contract's supposed to be whatever it is. But a lot of times we do have like, hey, this is a contract to potentially roll into a full-time.
We are at 11, so is there anything else that you guys want to just put out there before we wrap up?
Not for me. It's been a pleasure to chat with you all and kind of have this conversation again. I'd love to keep the conversations going. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. It seems like we have a lot of different skill sets, that we're able to attend. So would love to help you guys find an opportunity within the Cox family.
Absolutely. Use us as resources, communicate, reach out as you come across them, and we will do our best to get you connected to the right people.
Before we end, I just wanted to go ahead and say a big thank you to everybody that attended today and to Cox for hosting our first talent acquisition open house. These webinars will be held on the third Thursday of every month with different various potential employers. You can find the registration for that on the TAG calendars, our main calendar and our training calendar. If you have any questions for us at TAG, you can find the email on the event registration page that you signed up for this event today. It is heather@tagonline.org or alexisg@tagonline.org.